Welcome back, dear audience. It is me, Cocolino, having a bit of a cafecito. Oh my god, right? What else can you say about this whole thing? But I want to talk about this, and also looking at the whole global situation, or I don't mean just like political, but I mean just like this planet and like what's happening, what are we doing here? What the fuck is going on here, right? And it seems that it's this morphogenetic field is planetary, not necessarily the interplanetary, but planetary, meaning that any kind of human entering this planet, whichever way, is subject to the forces of this planet, which are all these belief systems that are always looking the way to um, seep into your conscious and express itself. And that's pretty much this virtual environment is littered with these belief systems that trying to you know bury into your mind. Let me just, this music is not that right. This one better. Right? And you can't believe them. I sometimes feel like some thought came in and it was a bit of a from uh, annoyance or anger, and I know that it was bullshit. It's just that I'm just trying to recognize something that is real in this collective, people sometimes call it a morphogenetic field of concepts. And it's there for everybody to see, like people when they want something and they go for it. I want this, I want this, I want control, I want this. Um, that's this entity is expressing itself, or I should say, thought form is expressing itself. There's nobody home. You understand? When a person is going on this tunnel vision on getting what that person wants, what the fuck is that? The person is in a tunnel vision executing the program. Either the vampiric program or the zombie program, because that's the nature of these programs. And if there's one thing that is wrong with this world, is this. And it's not that you can fight at this level. You cannot fight at the level of concept, even though you should still. You should still stand for whatever is right, commonsensically right, even, or what is right that stems from the intelligence, which are not these entities. And it may stem from the intelligence if you stop playing around and start merging the observer and observed. Then these truths shine through and say like, oh, if any concept is valuable, it's this concept. And then and you stand by it. That concept is not going to be popular by definition, of course not, but as long as it's supported by few key souls that must be supporting it, it will stand. You don't need anybody's agreement except those few souls that meant to create that concept. you know and so if anything that's going on right now is war for this entire planet, it's for the collective system of the planet. That's what it's war about. It's not between factions and whatnot. It's the entire nature of this invasive system which is just a program. It's not even alive. You see, this is what happened with that story, because there is a chronological story, right, and a secular story, as they say. It exists. You can tell the story. It's like what happened in that particular story, event by event, participant by participant. But there's also this mythological story, cosmological story, which happens in the stars, which is going to happen whether you like it or not. Bible stories was not a secular story, of course. It was the cosmic story, mythological story, which happens within each single individual going through that. And it doesn't seem that a lot of people go through that. But to those people, it's relevant. Other people look at the Bible as some sort of, I don't know what they're looking at there. But the people who know what the Bible is, because they're living the life, that it's a manual for consciousness, and it's a bit of a map, and it's a bit of a story. And in that story, there's certain events, and as long as you're living life this way, if you're going through your heart, you're going to have these events in your life. And a cosmological story is just this, that the evil, or these entities that are not real, roaming through. And what I was really trying to get at is the story of an angel that fell, on earth and whatnot, and then became Lucifer, the light bringer. I don't know if it's a really good name for this. I'm not sure if it's how it's supposed to be called. Light faker, maybe. But that disobedience from God, so to speak, in saying that, like, oh, I can be separate from you and be a god. That's pretty much what Lucifer said. But at the moment he said it, there was a bit of a joke. He didn't realize that he's losing the most valuable thing in the world, and that his aliveness, his free will. As soon as a person makes that decision, and when I say this Luciferian story, it rolls out within people too. Not within people too, rolls out within people. That story. We talked about Jesus, Mary Magdalene. These are all, you got to look at this as a cosmological, mythological story that few people that live life very deeply go through that. For these people, this is irrelevant. It's their life. And nobody thinks that, like, they're Jesus. Nobody thinks that they're Mary Magdalene. It's very clearly an archetype. It's very clearly a cosmological story. You see? And few souls go through that. Only few, not a lot. There's not a lot of us here, They say that there are 3 types of souls: pneumatics, psychics, and hyalics. And I think it's true. I don't consider anybody real below the pneumatics, because they depend on somebody else's light. It's not a problem. But as soon as the light is off, it's gone. They don't have protection. They succumb to the entities and run that thing. So that's why I don't consider them real. However, when they're acting through the good light, they're very good people. They're very good people. And psychics are creative people. They're good creative people, but they depend on somebody's life. If you run the good light through them, that's what they're going to create something good. If you run the dark light through them, they're gonna create something horrible. These are just souls like that. So can you consider them really alive? No. You know? Well, you can consider them alive, but can you consider them individual? No, that's probably a better way of saying it. They're not an individual. So then how many actual players there are who play this level of game? You know, this thing that I'm showing, this observe and observe, it works for everybody, whether you pneumatic, hyalic, or whatever, but it's on your level. You know, it works for everybody on their level. And I think when people play the game like that, they become real. The person becomes real when they starts owning their own light. You gotta find your own light, not to seek in the mind for the light, which is a false light. That is that fish, you know, with dangling light bulb to lure you in, honey trap. And that's what the Luciferian light is. And in the Constantine movie, I don't know if you've seen it, he was depicted as this white but also blackish, like you could see that there's blackness seeping through the white, and that's how it was displayed there. That's what it is, because it's a coal that's sugar coated in the light. It's artificially created. So the joke is on that character that decided to go for the Luciferian way and became a slave. Because you're always going to have to do this thing, whatever that is, for it to have that glow, the dark glow. So it's a stupid path to take. Should you take it? You should take it once and see it immediately what that entails. But that's the thing, the only way you can do that, to take it once and not get lost in that loop, is if you do it consciously and aware as an experiment. Say, you see what I'm trying to say? And you also know that, like, fuck, there might be a point where I'm gonna just lose myself in it, you know? And if you lose yourself in it, then you by definition cannot get out. You're gonna have to meet somebody who's out of it, and then get flashed, get flashed at. And when you're flashed at, then you start realizing, holy shit, I'm in the pattern, you know. And then you start looking for that light yourself, not seeking the false one, but turning this lens upon itself, because your lens was been looking outside the whole time. You turn it upon itself, and then it begins this. And when you do it, you start understanding that you gotta keep your throne and having observe and observe as close as possible, or together at all times. But time separates it. You gotta go back. That's the first order of business, you know, that needs to be done. That's one thing I know. If one thing I know in this life is this, that's one thing that I'm sure of. And the rest of it I'm still just trying to figure out. I kind of have an idea, but I can't consider myself, you know, like a master of it unless I actually master it. And now I'm just messing around. But I'm not messing around on this alchemy thing. That's one thing I'm sure of it. And this is why I'm showing to others through one-on-one sessions. And I really like to see more people doing those one-on-one sessions, because I think it's the highest leverage. It's the most that you can get in this life with $100. That one I can say for sure. That's the most that you can buy for your $100 in this entire existence on this planet. the most return on investment? I mean, your life, first of all. Aliveness, joy, a life worth living. Bye now. Oh shit. Advertising. I'm gonna use that clip for the advertising. I hate advertising. Positioning. That's better. Anyway, what was I saying? Something important. Right, so the most important thing. And that brings me to something that you can see happening in the world. And what happens right now is being exposed, right? It's being exposed what actually is there going on. And you know how it's being exposed? Through this idea of freedom, which is not freedom, it is decadence. What happens when you tell the entity, which is ego, which is not real, a definition of a non-player character, no matter how convincing it is always going to be driven by pleasure and pain, by the way. That's how it reacts. You can condition it and like disciplining it through pleasure and pain. It will always avoid pain and always go for pleasure. Okay? So that's what an addict does, right? It's just like, okay, move to pleasure, avoid pain. Oh, this pain bad, move to pleasure. You know, it just runs. And that may be different. Maybe like, oh, I have to accomplish this because it feels embarrassing not to feel accomplished, or like be accomplished or look accomplished. I have to accomplish this, accomplish pleasure. Then, oh, pain again. Oh, what you see what I'm trying to say? Like, it's fucking robotic and automatic and it's boring. The most fucking boring thing ever. Fuck that type of life, man. No wonder people want to kill themselves, because if there's a soul there and it's just watching what's going on, it's like, no, this is insanity. This is not sustainable. It's like, I want fucking out. But the thing is that when something that decides that wants out, it's actually the ego is trying to die, because it's cornered itself into the corner, and the ego is always going to corner itself into the corner. You see, it's always going to do that. Because it always have this desire, you know. Oh my god, I just realized something. Fuck. Yeah, this is how they get the false light. That instead of surrender, submission. It's when you when a woman, for example, is in a like abusive relationship, she submits to that tyranny and that abuse. At that moment, she fuels the energy for that tyrannical and for tyranny and abuse. Okay, it's all about energy, and that energy wants to either submit or dominate. That's always going to want to do that. That's the definition of that automated pleasure pain situation that's going on. Now, do you see what kind of program and not a real thing it is? If you really look at this, you'll see this. Okay, this is just a program. You can clearly see it's being a program. And I always felt like I'm in a place like, no, this is not, cannot be it. Like, what the fuck is this place? From my early age, things make no sense to me. I mean, I'm not saying something new. Like, if you're watching me, you probably also can relate to this thing, because there's a little bit of like a origin or original gravity towards the real light, towards that thing that is in your heart. You see, and that's what people do. For example, some souls, when they give up and submit themselves into the tyranny, they just fuel it. That's the same thing as like a woman giving up on herself and is like, well, and she chooses like money through OnlyFans or whatever, right? I just heard that Denise Richards is on OnlyFans. When I heard this, I was like, fuck, I almost cried. I was like, shh. Like, they're getting souls which I thought are at least still decent or could continue being decent. That's what's sad, that it corrupts good souls. They're not really pneumatic souls, but because otherwise they would defend themselves. But that's the level of the situation, Denise Richards is, based on what I know and what kind of vibe I'm picking up, Charlie Sheen was super in love with her, probably still is, and he couldn't get the handle on his alcohol and his woman, and I hear that he's doing much better now. Back then, and that's the only reason he couldn't hold up a woman like Denise Richards, to me it was like a woman in all respects beautiful, with values and stuff and virtues, and to see her in the OnlyFans, to me that's a degree of decadence that is and that's what it brings, this decadence. When you say like, well, being free, well, I do whatever I want. Who's doing that? Who's doing the bidding? It's freedom. I do whatever I want. No, you're letting the demons run wild. Like, I mean, if there's any kind of attention and awareness there, because when you press that button, run demons wild, and you lose control. But if there's a little bit of awareness, there is like, fuck, maybe it's not a freedom. Maybe this is decadence. This is a better word for it. And if decadence goes out of control, then it goes complete pandemonium. On the opposite side, on the soul side, freedom and liberty is an equal intensity. Well, not equal intensity, but goes in parallel. Liberty is more intense type of freedom, and then pandemonium is more intense type of decadence. So that's what you see. It's not a sexual liberation, it's decadence. It's not a radical monogamy, it's decadence. It's not open relationships, it's decadence. I hope you see that this is just like a Babylonian demons running wild as much as they can. But the only thing that it does, it reveals itself. It reveals itself, and it shows like, okay, there you go. There's that energy there. And then, by the way, that could be good for the alchemy. This is why I'm looking there to pick up the root cause. And so I'm capable of alchemizing this because I'm looking there. Like, I'm not afraid to look at the worst shit that is going on here. Ideally speaking, As much as I need to look, I will look. But in the right direction. Not in a direction that just runs the energy of this, but in the direction of its shrinking it. Or chemical looking. That looking with your heart and that listening with your heart. So that brings me to the true freedom. This is the true freedom. That looking with your heart and listening with your heart. And so at this level, everything that is can be felt should be embraced, because that's a part of you. On this level, you understand, in the heart level, you want to alchemize everything. That whatever comes there, it's on. Whatever comes there, it's on, and just have a habit and grace that and graciousness that is happening. This mind habit looking at this as negative and starting to run away for this must go away. That's definitely has to happen. If there's any thought from there looking at this thing that may feel this uncomfortable, the thought should be, it's happening, or this is it. It's gold, or whatever. Anything that does not let you look away, anything that allows you to listen with your heart even more. When somebody asks you to listen with your ears, and say, listen, what happens in that moment? There's something geometrically opens up to pick up more information. So the same thing with your heart. You can open up and start picking up as much information as it wants to come through you. And you always need to be between that openness and focal point. And you want to breathe with that, because you're not gonna sort of get away with always going in the surrender, and you're not gonna get away with always going to courage. The Icarus game. Don't fly too close to the sun. Don't get swept under the water. And this is it. This is essentially it. And that's freedom. That's surfing the waves of life. And you don't want to do all these things that these entities and these thought forms say it wants to do. You definitely don't want to do that. It's ridiculous. And by realizing that, you will see oh fuck, I don't have to do this. You should have a fucking relief. It's oh my god, that was just as if you're doing this alchemy thing, that's it. You don't need to worry about these other things. And through this alchemy thing, whatever you gotta do, it will come up. You see? It will happen. So and so here's what's going on. So the game for the people that play the alchemical game or these pneumatic souls is to look at this as the cleanup of this reality. And the cleanup is this. Externally, you got to change the laws of consciousness, which is concepts in the mind, is what kind of programs people must be running. As one side, which includes country laws, which includes the regulation, which includes the local government decisions, stuff like that. It's important. I'm going to get to this in a second, but that must be done. And the other side is alchemy. Alchemically, you alchemize all these possible connotations of all these energies, and then that's in the soul and in the mind, body. You create the ideas, and you keep on, revisiting these ideas, and you keep on trying through the well of making them real in the physical world. That also needs to be done. It's a two-pronged approach. And Jesus said, take the lowest rung. And he meant take the lowest rung in your heart. Okay? But I'll tell you something else. Taking the lowest rung in your heart, meaning that you're focusing on the worst possible incoherence or disgusting thing in your heart. And of course, you find it in your heart when you are connecting with dark people, dark places. You see what I'm trying to say. But you do this, you connect with the dark people, you alchemize your dark places, you alchemize, you do all that because that's actually part of your soul. So you're just gathering your soul. You see, that is locked up. That soul may be locked up in other people who are taking that soul energy, which is coherence, and distorting it into the program. And you got to take that energy that's running the program and take it back. So this is the fight for the soul, for your soul. And if people sell their souls, don't matter. You can be with these people and on an energy level, alchemize all that energy from them. And the game is cosmological, mythological stories that we're gonna have to meet all the types of these distortions in people wherever we go. And we're gonna have to alchemize it. And I think this is like the most cool thought or concept to have, that this is the point right now. I mean, this is kind of a war, and a lot of things are going to be delayed, like for example, like having your partner, and or why that does not work when you are going through this alchemical journey. For this reason, because you have not gathered all the fragments of your soul yet. And so it's not going to happen until you have all the fragments put back together, until the great work is finished. And I don't know when it's going to be finished. Nobody says, maybe you can figure it out. But I think it's not really to do with time or anything. It's really up to you. Is how many tunnels are you going to keep on taking that are right? But even one of those things of not waiting and saying like, oh, when this is going to end, that's one of the problems as well. It's one of the thoughts that preventing you from realizing that it doesn't work like that, that it's always infinite. It's always infinite. And so you can visit anytime and it's always there. And you can see that sometimes you're kind of out of it a little bit, you alchemize back. And that's it. And there seems to be something that's being accumulated. I'm just postulating this, but I think something there is being accumulated because some structure needs to be created to counteract all of this, time fractals of energy that's been created to create these thought forms and stuff like that, that trapped energy. So you gotta be able to unlock that energy somehow. And so there's some sort of that object that's being developed. And I think this is what prima materia is called, or philosopher's stone. It is something that a plasma, they can take any possible shape based on any possible problem. And that's the miracle about this. That it's like an alive crystal. That it takes the shape that is absolutely necessary and complementary to that particular thing. And so this way, you always correct for the incoherence there. And I think that's when you gain true individuality, that thing that is not the source itself, but an individual energy that is capable of taking any kind of shape or form depending on situation, that ultimate soul. And so here we are, we're here to recover the pieces of our soul, and it's trapped as a demon in somebody else. It is trapped as this negative feeling and disorder with somebody else. This is why I hang out with all sorts of people, because I sometimes, before I wasn't looking like that. It's like, oh, that person is like this, but now I'm starting to look like this. It's like, that person has a lot of darkness, which means it has a lot of my soul that I have to unlock. And something happens when you unlock it, that energy is then released. And that energy that is released, it becomes you. That energy that is becomes you. What is this? You feel yourself as this buzzing, joy, blissful ball of light. And perhaps it is growing. Perhaps as you go through life and you recover more and more of that darkness, because if you look at the world and say like, oh, is there darkness out there? Feeling wise, emotionally speaking, then all right, I'm going to eat it all. That's one, I'm sure. The rest of it of life, you can do things that are enjoyable or fun, sustain your body, live well and stuff like that. Exercise, have something that is fun, not to post on social anything, just because it's fun for you. The most fun things that I do in my life are not necessarily publicized. And yeah, that's what you do in the physical. And another thing you do in the physical, by the way, if Jesus said you take the lowest rung in your heart, then you go for the highest rung in your mind. Meaning that you, in your mind, you need to take a highest possible position in the society and in the politics, even in the government. Because people say, well, I'm not going to be bothering you. Politics is not my thing. This is how I used to think. But then I realized, like, fuck, if I'm not there, then who's going to make sure that right type of laws are being enforced? See? So this is why talented people and these alchemical souls should be as a part of this protectorate, to make sure that at least that their job is supposed to be the keepers of the truth, the keepers of the law, the constitution. And nobody gives a fuck about constitution. Constitution prevents so many things that are happening right now lawfully, right? They just passed the law that corrupted, for example, the dollar, and was no longer backed up by gold and stuff like that, and it was completely unconstitutional, and it became the law in 1916. And now it's still, I don't know, I hope Trump is changing this, but they gotta look at these laws that are unlawful, or these laws that are sanctioned, constitutional, and then also unsacred. That's where you got to start, at the highest possible level. This is what I realized, that holy shit, yeah, you know, that's, I mean, this life in the jungle is teaching me a lot of things, and most of the things are not tangible. Most of the things is the way my consciousness is being structured, But nevertheless, in the mind, you gotta strive for the highest. The most money that you can make you know, for sure, just for the influence and storage of your value that is real, you know, and stuff like that. You gotta play that game well. This is important, very important. You want to live in a house that you like, not necessarily this excessive egotistical mansions that are just non-functional and nobody uses it that much, but do something that's beautiful. It's nice, that it's comfy for you to be, something unique that you like. It's, you know, it doesn't matter how much it costs you, but this is your home, this is your house, this is how you want it to look. Not how like everybody's chasing, you know, what the looks and stuff like that, you know. My my architectural uh, taste is very like forest and spaceship mix. That's what I like. I like something that is a bit of a completely contemporary, the most advanced it can possibly be, and the most natural and basic and grits type of ambient. And that's what I like. Everything that I build right now, I'm sitting here at a bit of like a spaceship that's landed in the jungle, you know. I don't like that. That's my style, but that's what I like and that's what I build. I love this jungle, love this nature. It's amazing. It's But society needs so much work. I mean, not just here, the whole world, you know. But I do miss um, accessibility and ease. For example, there is a limited things that I can order in over here. You know, and I don't like that. You know, I'm kind of spoiled. I really would like to just like, okay, this is what I want, drop it on my doorstep. But over here, it's limited. I'm gonna check. Maybe it changed now. It's been a few years ago that I checked. Maybe I already have something that they can deliver, and that they can deliver to this type of specific address because I'm in the jungle. It's not normal address. You gotta, you know, the address is basically almost location. Anyway, so there. I wanted to contrast this, that people chasing this. Oh, I'm free sexually. Like, look, I can do whatever I want. No, it's decadence and fuck you. You have not fucking invented anything. There's nothing to be proud of. You just fell completely asleep and gave the, you know, the control to the demon. So, no, no, you're not free. Decadence pandemonium is not freedom or liberty. But the freedom you get, the true freedom, is the feeling of freedom. You understand? And you earn it through going through the eye of a needle. It's a feeling of freedom. It's freedom and a feeling of aliveness. When your heart is just like unbound, you know, and you like such a release. I have waves of that happening sometimes to me, and I was like, oh my god, it's just a feeling of freedom. And that's true freedom. Because wherever you are, you feel free, unbound by anything. It's just. And then that can even go even more crazy, even more intense. So there's the surrender. And by the way, I have to just say some like one little technical thing in this Icarus game. There are two types of surrender. There's this unboundness and melting, and then there's another one that just going back into the background, putting your attention in the background of the silence. That's another one. So it appears that this faculty, we can do that type of dissolution or settlement. That's why. Yeah. That's the difference. You can surrender in the way just like becoming unbound, or settle in that stillness. And there's two types of surrender. And by that virtue, there's supposed to be two types of courage. I know that one type of courage is pointing your attention so precisely on the source of that disorder. Making it into one point. But there's another way, another type of courage. If this is surrender, this is becoming unbound and melting, then the other is this forcing it, like pressuring it into the. That's the type of courage. And then there's this point that I said, complete silence or complete point, melting and pressuring into. And so sometimes, like when that incoherence is dispersed, you seem to have the capacity to take it and compact it. When you compact it, then you have like something to deal with, right? And then you can look for the point source of that you compacted, or you can, whatever you compacted, then you can keep compacting into a point or melting it in the background. And you got to find what it wants the most. You try this, that, this, and then you find it and lock it. I'm sure that your consciousness, as a toroidal field, has these four capacities. And I'm just recording this now for the first time and upgrading my book on these four faculties that I've discovered and that every consciousness has. Is the capacity of consciousness to do. And I'm going to keep on exploring it and understanding, and I'm going to try to see if I can have people, which I know I can, from the sessions that we did, to see that those four capacities of your consciousness, of that you can do that, dissolve, you can settle into the stillness, you can compact it, crush that incoherent feeling into like one little ball. And you play with it, or becoming just a single point of that. And it appears to me that this is the most important game. Like if there's nothing else in my life, if this is it, then it's pretty good, you know. But of course, I want to develop the mind too. This is why I made this video, how to build your throne and how to build your chariot. The mind is a chariot. The throne is your soul. And you got to build a chariot. And what is a chariot? It is I'll define chariot. The chariot is your capacity to move into the astral reality and have as many senses connected there, and to create objects, events, characters on demand within that field, and move from any possible space in the in the past and any possible space in the future. Have that type of liberty. When you have that capacity to do so, you have a chariot, right? Because then you can navigate that world. Until you have that, you cannot navigate that world. And my chariot is freaking rusty, man. Like, it was damn sparking at one point in my life, but now it's pretty rusty, and I neglected it because there's so much to do on the throne, you know. But I know that I shouldn't neglect it. I think it's possible to work on the throne and the chariot at the same time. And what's the throne? The throne is this capacity that I was just talking about, to go to the deepest point and play between this two types of surrenders and two types of courage. And you play there. And something else is going on there, you know? And some of this alchemy turns into eulogy. And so I just defined like those four capacities of consciousness at the deepest level. But there's something else going on there. I want to define those four capacities. I don't know if it's four. Whatever the capacity is there on the other side of the soul. Because sometimes, like, I can see myself doing it. I can see myself moving to the one specific state of consciousness that has a specific type of feel. And it's amazing. They're all freaking incredible. They're all freaking amazing. But sometimes I find myself just to move there, and like, which one am I going to move? I'm saying, like, okay, let's move to the one that right now is out there, suppose. That's what is required of me. And you move into that particular shape. And it's very hard to describe what makes you go to one or the other. Because I'm writing them down, you know, like, and because I can see what's really going on there. It's the sacred geometrical shape that you can take that produces the vibration. And it appears that what kind of shape you have to take for each moment of time, depending on what kind of time you live in. And then you turn on this one. Then the other one changes. You turn on that one. Because once you get that prima materia, it's not over. Then the prima materia needs to take a shape that is required of you based on this time. And you learn all sorts of ways of how to take that shape that is required of you at that particular time. And it is a type of art that I'm just learning. Because that's your true soul desire. It is there. It's like your soul wants to take this particular shape. And these feelings are like unbelievable, like music. Like I said, I'm just learning it, but it's beauty itself. Damn. Wow. I just psyched myself up. So anyway, because I was doing whatever I was talking about. It's dope. I'm telling you, it's the dopest thing ever. You have no idea how dope this is. Okay? Calibration, harmonization. The harmonization is phenomenal thing. Like I said, I'm learning. And so then that's your throne. When you're capable to calibrate and harmonize, that's your throne. And my throne is pretty good. My throne is pretty strong. but my chair is a bit rusty. But like with 1 week of training, going back on training, and honestly, it's I have to want it, you see. But right now I'm playing with this passion level, yearning and longing level, that I may not have the attention left for the mind that much as it deserves. So I'm trying to spread my efforts, I shouldn't say efforts, but endeavors throughout. But perhaps there's no reason to go into the mind yet. Perhaps it's really important to build a very strong throne. Because with the chariot you can do incredible things, see whatever you want, go whatever you want, there's no limit. It's unbelievable. But something tells me that, okay, fine, like keep your chariot kind of sharp and whatnot, but don't use it too much now until your throne is strong. And when you have your throne strong, when you know how it all works with the soul, then you can travel, and there's not going to be a single entity that can fuck with you. If you have a strong throne, no entity can fuck with you. And you want to bring your throne there. And so, in this mythological and cosmological story, this princess this beauty that you, Sophia, that you saved, then it wants to be flown to the moon, right? Fly me to the moon, you know that phrase. Saving the princess from the castle, and then flying her to the moon and back, as they say. So that's pretty much where we're at. You can't fly her to the moon without a chariot. I think we're in this cosmological story, we are at the saving princess phase still, with some occasional minor flying to the moons. That's what it seems like to me. What else can I add, guys? I think that's enough. It's 1 hour. And that's what it is. That's what it's saying. Save me from the monster and take me to the moon. Alright, guys. Peace. And I'll see you in the next one.